There are mountains you can see, and there are mountains inside you. The story of Lhakpa Sherpa is not just about climbing the tallest mountain in the world. It is about climbing through pain, fear, and doubt again and again until the impossible becomes normal. Lhakpa Sherpa was not born into comfort. She grew up in the mountains of Nepal, where life itself requires strength. Every day meant walking steep paths, carrying heavy loads, and learning how to survive in a world shaped by altitude and hardship. But those mountains were only the beginning. The real challenge was not the mountain outside. It was the expectations placed on her. In many places, people believed that high-altitude climbing was a man's world. Women were expected to stay within limits, to follow tradition, to avoid dangerous dreams. But Lhakpa Sherpa saw the mountain differently. Where others saw danger, she saw direction. Where others saw limits, she saw possibility. Her journey to climb Mount Everest was not easy. Climbing Everest is never easy. The air grows thin. The temperature drops below freezing. Every step requires energy your body barely has. But the physical challenge was only one part of the story. Her life outside the mountain was filled with struggle. She faced poverty, immigration challenges, and personal hardships that could have easily broken her spirit. Most people would have stopped. But Lhakpa Sherpa kept climbing. Again, and again, and again. Each climb was not just a test of strength, but a reminder of who she was. A woman who refused to let her past define her future. A climber who carried both pain and determination up the same mountain. And eventually, she achieved something extraordinary. She became the woman who summited Everest more times than any other. Think about that for a moment. Not once, not twice, but repeatedly returning to the same mountain that defeats thousands. Why? Because for her, the mountain was not just a place, it was proof. Proof that resilience can overcome circumstance. Proof that identity is stronger than expectation. Proof that persistence can rewrite history. Climbing Everest requires more than physical endurance. It requires mental clarity. One wrong decision at that altitude can cost a life. The mountain demands respect, patience, and humility. Lhakpa Sherpa understood that. She did not climb to prove she was fearless. She climbed because she had learned to move forward despite fear. That difference is important. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is action while fear exists. Every step toward the summit required trust, trust in preparation, trust in experience, and trust in the quiet belief that she could continue. The documentary Mountain Queen shows us that greatness does not always look glamorous. Sometimes it looks like exhaustion. Sometimes it looks like persistence when nobody is watching. And sometimes it looks like a woman quietly climbing a mountain while the world slowly begins to notice. But the mountain teaches something deeper. The summit is only one moment. The climb is everything. Because during the climb, you discover your limits. You confront your doubts. You learn how strong you truly are. And once you reach the top, something changes. You realize the mountain was never just outside you. It was inside you. It was inside you. The ice, the wind, the thin air, those were real challenges. But the greatest challenge was always internal. The doubt that appears when your body is exhausted. The voice that asks whether it is worth continuing. The moment when turning back feels safer than moving forward. Every climber faces that moment. Some listen to the voice of fear. Others listen to something deeper. Lhakpa Sherpa learned early that mountains reward patience. They reward preparation. They reward the ability to stay calm when everything around you feels unstable. Climbing Everest is not about rushing. Every step must be careful. Every movement must be measured. If you hurry, the mountain reminds you immediately that nature cannot be forced. Life works the same way. Progress does not come from speed alone. It comes from endurance, from the ability to keep going when the path is steep and the air feels thin. At high altitude, even breathing becomes difficult. Each step requires effort that people at sea level cannot imagine. But climbers do not focus on the entire mountain at once. They focus on the next step. Just one more step. That mindset changes everything. When a goal feels overwhelming, the mind begins to panic. The summit feels too far away. The journey feels impossible. But when you focus only on the next step, the impossible becomes manageable. Lhakpa Sherpa understood this deeply. Her life was not only a climb up a mountain, it was a climb through hardship, through moments when giving up would have been easier, through years when recognition did not exist. But mountains do not reward those who seek attention. They reward those who respect the process. Each time she climbed, she carried more than equipment. She carried the weight of experience. Every previous climb taught her something new about the weather, about timing, about her own limits. Experience builds confidence. Confidence builds calm. Calm builds survival. And survival at the highest mountain in the world is an achievement in itself. When she stood on the summit of Mount Everest, it was not just a personal victory. It was a message to anyone who believed their circumstances defined their future. The summit proved something powerful. You can come from hardship and still rise higher than anyone expects. You can carry scars and still carry strength. You can face doubt and still reach heights that once felt unreachable. But the summit also teaches humility. Because the mountain does not belong to anyone, it allows you to stand there for a moment, to see the world from above the clouds, and then it asks you to descend. The climb down is just as important. Success must be handled carefully. Pride can be dangerous at high altitude. Respect for the journey must remain even after the summit. That humility is what makes a true climber. Lhakpa Sherpa did not climb once and stop. She returned, again and again. Each summit was not the end of the story, but another chapter. Persistence like that changes how people see possibility. When others see a record number of summits, they see achievement. But behind that achievement are years of preparation, countless hours of training, endless patience, and a mindset that refuses to accept limits placed by others. That mindset is the real summit. Because once you learn to climb the mountains inside you, fear, doubt, exhaustion, the mountains outside you become possible. This is the deeper lesson of the Mountain Queen. Greatness is not about standing at the top once. It is about the courage to keep climbing. Even when the path is steep. Even when the air is thin. Even when the summit feels far away. Because every step forward proves something important. You are stronger than the mountain you face. And sometimes, the only difference between those who reach the summit and those who turn back is one decision. The decision to take one more step. It sounds simple, but in the harsh reality of a mountain like Everest, that decision carries weight. At that altitude, every step demands energy your body struggles to produce. Your lungs search for air that barely exists. Your muscles burn. Your mind begins to question whether continuing makes sense. And in that moment, the climb becomes deeply personal. No one can take that step for you. Guides can support you, teammates can encourage you, but the final decision always belongs to the climber. It is the quiet agreement you make with yourself, I will keep moving. That decision is not about ego. It is about commitment. Commitment to the journey you started, commitment to the preparation you invested, commitment to the belief that effort, when sustained long enough, leads somewhere meaningful. Lhakpa Sherpa understood this better than most. Her path was not smooth. There were moments when the world around her underestimated her strength. Moments when life outside the mountains felt even harder than the climb itself. Moments when balancing survival and ambition felt almost impossible. Yet she kept returning to the mountain. Because the mountain reminded her of who she was. On the slopes of Everest, there are no shortcuts, no illusions. The mountain does not care about reputation or background. It responds only to preparation, patience, and resilience. That fairness is powerful. In the mountains, effort matters. If you prepare carefully, respect the conditions, and remain steady under pressure, the path slowly opens. Not quickly, not easily, but honestly. That honesty teaches something important. Success is rarely dramatic in the moment. It builds slowly through discipline. Through small improvements repeated over time, through the willingness to continue when comfort disappears. Climbers understand this deeply. They train for months, sometimes years, for a single summit attempt. They carry heavy loads up steep terrain. They learn to manage risk, conserve energy, and remain calm when storms arrive unexpectedly. Because storms always arrive, both on mountains and in life. The ability to stay composed during those storms often determines whether you move forward or retreat. Panic wastes energy, calm preserves it. Lhakpa Sherpa's repeated climbs show the power of calm persistence. She did not rush the mountain. She worked with it. She listened to it. She respected its power. And respect creates longevity. Anyone can push hard for a short time, but climbing Everest repeatedly requires balance, strength without recklessness, ambition without arrogance. Balance allows you to continue, and continuation creates legacy. When people look at her achievements, they see records and numbers, but the deeper story is about identity. It is about a woman who refused to let limitations written by others become her own. She wrote her story step by step. Every climb added another line. Every summit added another chapter. But the most important part of her story is not the moment she reached the top. It is the thousands of steps taken before that moment. Steps taken in cold winds. Steps taken in thin air. Steps taken when doubt tried to slow her down. Those steps represent something universal. Every person faces mountains in life. Some mountains look like financial struggle. Some look like personal loss. Some look like fear of starting again. At first, those mountains appear overwhelming. But the lesson from the Mountain Queen is clear. No mountain is climbed in one leap. It is climbed step by step, breath by breath, decision by decision. And sometimes the only thing separating the summit from surrender is the quiet determination to take one more step. Because when you take that step, something powerful happens. You prove to yourself that the climb is still possible. And that proof is powerful, because once you know that progress is still possible, doubt loses some of its power. The mountain may still be steep, the air may still be thin, the journey may still be long, but you have evidence now that forward movement exists. Evidence changes belief. Before the first step, everything feels uncertain. Your mind imagines failure. It imagines exhaustion. It imagines the possibility that the summit may never come. But after one step, and then another, something shifts. You begin to trust the process. Trust is not built from inspiration. It is built from experience, from the repeated realization that effort creates progress, even when that progress is small. Lhakpa Sherpa's journey reflects that truth again and again. She did not wake up one day and suddenly become the woman who would stand on Everest more times than any other. That identity was built slowly, through training, through learning, through surviving climbs that taught her respect for the mountain. Every climb added understanding. Understanding reduced fear. Reduced fear increased clarity. And clarity made each next step stronger. The mountain never became easy, but she became stronger. That is an important difference. Life rarely removes the difficulty of the climb. Instead, it shapes you into someone capable of handling it. The same mountain that once felt impossible begins to feel manageable because your perspective has changed. You know what effort feels like. You know what persistence requires. You know how to breathe when pressure rises. Those lessons are not just for mountains. They apply everywhere. In work, in relationships, in personal growth. Every meaningful goal contains its own form of altitude. There are moments when the path becomes difficult to see, moments when progress slows, moments when your energy feels low. But if you remember the principle of the next step, you continue. You do not demand that the entire path become clear immediately. You only ask yourself one question: what is the next step? That question removes overwhelm. It replaces panic with action. And action restores momentum. Momentum is powerful. Even slow momentum carries you forward. Over time, small steps accumulate into distance you once believed impossible. This is how summits are reached. Not through giant leaps. Through patience. Through rhythm. Through the quiet decision to continue moving upward. When Lhakpa Sherpa stood on the summit again and again, she was not just celebrating victory. She was standing on top of years of persistence. Every step that once felt small had carried her there. And from that height, the world looks different. The clouds below you remind you how far you have climbed. The horizon expands. The limits that once surrounded you feel distant. That perspective is the real reward of the climb. Because it reminds you of something powerful. You are capable of more than you once believed. Mountains do not shrink. People grow. And when people grow through patience, courage, and consistent effort, they discover something extraordinary. The summit was never the final goal. The real victory was becoming the person capable of reaching it, because summits come and go. You stand there for a moment, surrounded by clouds and silence, feeling the wind move across the highest point on earth. The view is breathtaking. The achievement is undeniable. But eventually, you have to come down. The summit is temporary. Who you become during the climb is permanent. That is the deeper truth hidden inside every great journey. People often focus on the destination. They imagine the moment of success, the recognition, the reward, but those moments are brief. What stays with you is the transformation. The patience you developed when progress felt slow. The resilience you built when conditions became harsh. the discipline you practiced when quitting would have been easier. Those qualities remain long after the summit fades behind you. Lhakpa Sherpa's story reminds us that greatness is not defined by a single achievement. It is defined by the character built through repeated effort. Each climb did more than add another record to her name. It strengthened her understanding of what persistence truly means. Climbing Everest once is extraordinary. Climbing it again and again requires something deeper. It requires a mindset that respects the process more than the spotlight. It requires humility to keep learning, courage to keep returning, and endurance to keep moving even when the path becomes difficult. That mindset is what truly inspires people. Because everyone faces mountains, not always made of rock and ice, but made of challenges that feel just as steep, responsibilities that feel heavy, dreams that seem distant, doubts that whisper quietly when the journey becomes hard. At those moments, the story of the Mountain Queen becomes a reminder. You do not need to conquer the entire mountain today. You only need to take the next step. One step forward proves the climb continues. One step forward reminds you that progress exists. One step forward keeps the summit alive. Over time, those steps create something powerful. Momentum. Momentum carries you through the hardest stretches. It builds belief. It strengthens identity. And slowly, without you noticing at first, the person who once looked at the mountain with fear begins to look at it with determination. That is transformation. You become someone who understands effort, someone who respects patience, someone who trusts that steady progress leads somewhere meaningful. And when that understanding becomes part of you, something changes forever. Mountains stop looking impossible. They start looking like challenges waiting for your next step. Lhakpa Sherpa's journey proves that greatness does not come from a perfect beginning. It comes from consistent continuation, from showing up again and again, even when the world does not expect it. That persistence rewrites expectations. It turns ordinary beginnings into extraordinary outcomes. And it teaches a lesson that reaches far beyond the mountains. Your limits are often illusions created by fear and doubt. When you challenge those limits step by step, you discover new strength inside yourself. Strength you did not know existed. Strength that grows every time you keep climbing. Because the path to the summit is not reserved for the strongest at the start. It belongs to those who continue long enough to become strong.